Hello, everybody, and welcome to another brand new episode from the
Geek
Buddies.
Hey! We're back together again after Mikey taking a nice vacation around the world. He is back to hang out with us here, and we're going to talk about so many things going on in the world of entertainment. And we appreciate you all listening to us or watching us here on the Outlaw Nation channel. Let's introduce ourselves. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, writer, producer, and host here on the Outlaw Nation and the Geek Buddies. Mike.
I am Michael Vogel. I'm a writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies, including Strawberry Shortcake, now available on Netflix, and I just got back from Cape Cod.
Okay, Shannon.
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor. Where you guys, I'm getting so many close calls here. Hopefully you're definitely gonna see me on TV this year. Hopefully more than once. So many close calls, you guys.
That's how it works. I'm knocking on wood for you, man. That's how it works. The close calls. Oh, man. Those were fun. And we are brought to you and empowered and sponsored by Carbon Health, who powers and sponsors the Outlaw Nation and specifically the Geek Buddies. Please, if you've got healthcare questions, concerns, or needs, head on over to carbonhealth.com. Get them checked out there. They got virtual care, in clinic care. Sometimes they have day of care, depending on how busy their clinic is. They've got 125 locations nationwide. 80 plus locations in California alone. They do testing here for COVID, which is still around, ladies and gentlemen, regardless of what you hear in the news, it's still happening. And they like to partner with us because they like to genuinely care about positive communities like ours who engage with other people over the love of culture and expressions of style. And hey, if you're one of those people who are young and you love apps, well, get an app. They've got the Carbon Health app to have a doctor in your pocket or a doc in your pocket for any healthcare questions or concerns.
If you're one of those young people who love apps,
I don't know. I was watching an old guy messing around with his phone today at breakfast, and it was a little comical. He's just like, how does this work? So I was just a little confused about how to help him.
Was that old guy in the mirror?
Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Anyway, so the way the show works is each of us brings up a geek news item. We talk about it amongst ourselves, and then we get into our main topic. And today our main topic is a spoiler review of Stranger Things Season 4. And we're kind of doing a little bit different this time around. We're going to just basically have two blocks in the opening segments here. We're going to talk about trailers, and we're going to talk about Comic-Con panels. That's how we're going to handle things here. And if you're new to the Geek Buddies, thanks so much for joining us. And if you're not new, thanks for staying on the train. Shannon, take it away.
With trailers. You guys, it's been a minute since we've had a proper trailers section.
True.
And today we're back to old school. So the first film that the trailer just came out for David O. Russell's new film, Amsterdam. So this is one of those old Hollywood movies with an all-star cast. It has Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, John David Washington, Chris Rock, Anya Taylor-Joy, Zoe Saldana, Mike Myers, Michael Shannon, Timothy Olyphant, Taylor Swift, Rami Malek, Robert De Niro, and even more folks.
This is only an hour-long show, Shannon. Jesus Christ. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And I didn't even say every name on the poster. So basically, this looks like it could be a fun film in the vein of like American Hustle, except this one's set during the 30s. Basically, Christian Bale, John David Washington, and Margot Robbie play three friends who meet during World War I and become involved in some sort of scheme. And thus far, I mean, just based off of like the 2.5 minutes, I thought this seems kind of like right up my alley. This just seems like a lot of fun. But I'll throw it over to you guys first. What did you think of our first look at Amsterdam?
Michael?
Which I feel good about, did not actually watch the trailer when it came out on YouTube.
Oh.
And so I saw it for the first time last night when we went to go see Thor: Love and Thunder.
Oh.
And seeing it on the big screen, I kind of agree with you. I was just overwhelmed by the old school Hollywood star power of that trailer. Like, it was just every single shot that popped up, it was another huge named actor that looked like they were having the absolute time of their lives. Like, you know, you get those vibes sometimes when you're watching a trailer where you're like, these guys look like they had some fun shooting this movie. And that's exactly what the vibe was here. I don't fully know what it's about beyond what you just said, but just bowled over by it. Like, literally cannot wait to go see this movie.
Wow. Yeah, I couldn't have a different reaction than you two. I thought the trailer was a mess. And I was just like, I don't know what is happening here. This seems a little weird. The tones seem all different and all over the place. I don't know what's happening. David O. Russell, let's not forget, David O. Russell also directed I Heart Huckabees. So, I mean, there are some misses in David O. Russell's resume as well as some hits. And we haven't seen anything from him since Joy, which was 2015, which is right on the tail end of the Jennifer Lawrence explosion. This is when the public was just about exhausted with Jennifer Lawrence. And so both of them haven't really been doing much over the last few years. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one gets received. It feels like he's getting his feet again. It feels like he's a little rusty from what I saw in the trailer. So I don't know what to expect, but I think it's fascinating that we're starting to get more and more of these films with large numbers of cast members in them, right? I'm not talking about Marvel. I'm talking about like Death on the Nile, Murder on the Orient Express. There's that one with Sam Rockwell that's coming out with Saoirse Ronan. And then this one as well. There's a lot of these actors coming in to do these parts that are small parts. I'm sure they're not big parts for the most part, and having some fun being under a auteur's direction here with David O. Russell. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out. I'm not bowled over by this trailer, but I'm reserving judgment because he does have some good films on his resume as well as I Heart Huckabee. So I love it.
It's interesting. Like Christian Bale in this trailer, like on the heels of watching Thor: Love and Thunder, where I thought Christian Bale was fantastic. Watching him in this type of sort of, I thought he was fantastic. I think maybe if you don't like what he was saying,
great.
Not necessarily his fault, but just seeing him this sort of madcap caper. He has a really great history with David O. Russell from The Fighter. This movie seems like this will be nominated for Best Picture and it will not win. But we will be able to judge for ourselves on November 5th. When it is out in theaters. And the second trailer that we're going to talk about today, another, to me, seems like a potential Oscar contender, is The Woman King. This one stars Viola Davis, Lashana Lynch, John Boyega. So basically, this is about the African kingdom of Dahomey that is basically fighting back against European oppressors. If it did not have sort of a historical touchstones, I'm watching this. I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks like the origin of the Dora Milaje. Yeah. I mean, I thought this trailer looked awesome, but I'll throw it over to you guys. What did you all think of our first look at The Woman King?
I absolutely loved it. I did immediately. As soon as I saw this thing got over 1 million views in like a few hours, I was like, oh, I got to do a trailer reaction to this one. And I took a look at it. It was fantastic. Loved it. Lashana Lynch looks bad. Look, Viola Davis looks badass, but she's always badass. But, you know, she put on that weight from Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and look at her shear it right off to look like a badass here in The Woman King. So, you know, the female Robert De Niro in a way doing that kind of thing. So great to see her abilities as an actress to be able to do these kinds of things. She looks powerful. John Boyega looks interesting. We haven't seen John in much since the Star Wars films ended. So nice to see him take a role like this. And then, as I said, Lashana, that scene with the other dude and the spear in between, that's so badass. But, you know, there's a lot here that's resonating, this idea, because Viola is a mentor to a lot of people of color, and you see her being a mentor here to women of color in this film to fight against colonizers and enemies that want to come in and destroy their communities. You know, there's a lot of symbolism here. White Europeans coming in to try to destroy the community. There's symbolism here. So this is going to work on so many levels. And I thought I read that they have been around for the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries, this crew. Now, I don't know 100% quote me on this, but I had a couple of people comment to try to educate me on this. So that looks pretty badass. And they were possibly the influence for the Dora Milaje anyway for Black Panther. So this is a real story. So it's great to see for sure. And it's Gina Prince Bythewood who did Old Guard, which I liked, and Love and Basketball. So I'm excited for this one. What did you think, Mikey?
Yeah, I thought it looked fantastic. I mean, I think the overall vibe that I'm getting, and it's funny because this comes up a lot. You know, you see so many articles about Marvel, Star Wars, DC, they're infantilizing movies. Like, we don't make big movies anymore. And then you see a trailer like Amsterdam, and you see a trailer like Warrior King, and you're just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. Like, I can go see all my superheroes and my space movies, and I can go see these things that are these period pieces based on actual historical events, with like all-star casts. Like, Hollywood seems like it's doing just fine in the storytelling department based on these trailers, and I think this looks absolutely fantastic as well. Like, honestly, I just feel like we say this every 5 weeks after COVID. We're like, movies are back, but like watching these trailers, I was like, movies are back. So I was super jazzed about both of these. Can't wait to see them. Definitely got the Dora Milaje vibes.
Yeah.
But also like, I just think it's so interesting that, you know, we talk a lot about, to your point, like the symbolism that's inherent in this movie. But I also think there's just this, I love that we're telling different stories about parts of actual history. I think there's so much of history because, you know, you can argue with me or not, but like history is told through a white, cisgender, Eurocentric, male, patriarchal point of view. So many of the stories that we've gotten that are based on historical events, absolutely true, and heroic tales and people that did amazing things, there happen to be a bunch of white straight guys.
Yeah.
And so like really opening things up to tell these stories about like in Warrior King, like with these women, but like also like across the board, Woman King. Yeah, sorry. But like to just across the board to tell these stories that we've never heard before and never learned in school, I think is absolutely fantastic. And the fact that it looks like it's wrapped up in a star-studded movie that's hugely entertaining and looks absolutely badass is great.
Yeah. Sure.
How am I sounding here, fellas?
Yeah,
you sound
better?
so lovely.
There we go.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, this, I mean, you know, this seems like another could be awards contender, especially for Viola Davis. I was trying to look up, like, she's won Best Supporting Actress before, but I believe, right? Didn't she win for Doubt?
Oh no, it was Fences. She won for Fences.
Fences. So did she win Best Actress or Best Supporting?
It was Best Supporting for Fences.
Best Supporting. Okay. Well, I mean, this certainly looks like it could be a Best Actress statuette for Viola Davis. But again, we will find out for sure on September 16th when it was released. And that brings us to our last trailer. Speaking of space movies, we have a Disney Plus docu-series coming out called Light and Magic. And it is the history of Industrial Light and Magic, the company that George Lucas started back in the 70s for the first Star Wars film. I don't know how many of our audience watched the Imagineering story on Disney Plus, which was a 10-part series, I believe. But just a fascinating, is it 10? Or is it only 6?
Also, I think it's
was
also
it 6? I thought it was more than that, but
Disney loves their 6-episode series.
There's something with 6 with Disney. But
Devil's number 666 666.
Mephisto. But this looks like another fascinating deep dive. You can tell they have interviews with George Lucas, with Spielberg, with Ron Howard, and other ILM staff like Gary Whitta, Dennis Muren. This looks awesome to me, but I'll throw it over to you guys. What did you all think of our look at Light and Magic?
Mikey, please take it away, man.
I mean, look, I know that I have been really excited about every trailer that we've talked about today. This is the one that I'm the most excited about. Like hands down by a mile. To Shannon's point, the Imagineering documentary on Disney Plus is one of the best documentaries I've ever watched, and I watched it more than once. Like, that is a come home late at night and be like, I'm gonna pop on this part about Tokyo Disney and see how it goes. Like, it's a great documentary, and just watching this ILM trailer, it has a lot of the same elements that make it magical. Like, both the Imagineering documentary and this deal with people who have created something that we have loved for decades, and most of them didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
Right.
Most of them didn't know what the fuck they were doing. Like, these are people that just like did something that didn't exist before. So with the Imagineering documentary, it's obviously about building Disney and the parks and everything else. But with ILM, it's to Johnny and Shannon's point, like, when Star Wars came out and George Lucas says this in the trailer, like, there were no special effects houses. Like, they were just running blind. Like, how are we going to do this? And they made it up. And they built this empire that has built and created so many of the most beloved moments that we've had in films. And so I was already sold on this trailer. And then when they started playing Journey's Don't Stop Believin' along with it, I was like, well, you got me. I am so in for this. I will legit cry multiple times watching this documentary, I can guarantee.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, these are the kinds of documentaries I like, because it's a mixture of seeing people struggling with the beginning of something and then mixed in with the results and people talking about the joy and the elation and the feelings that they got when they got it right. You know, I liken it to watching the documentaries around Jaws and Bruce and that whole situation with the shark. You know, I love those things where like they're frustrated, they're not sure if it's going to work, how's it going to, and they have to kind of improvise on the fly. So some of my favorite shots on the trailer are when like the TIE fighter's wing is flying off and all these things they're trying to figure out. I love it. And they mix in actual scenes. And then you see like, you know, the Davy Jones, they're not just focusing on Star Wars. They're going to look at all kinds of things to show you how they're able to do stuff. And this is the kind of stuff that if you want to get into the field, this is like a free class that essentially you can watch. Well, I mean, it's $5 for Disney Plus, but you can watch it and enjoy the 6 parts and really get a good idea of this field. And if you want to get into it and what's going to be involved in it and to see the progression and the growth. Listen, I mean, it's only been 4 or 5 to see it as advanced as it is now over 4 to 5 decades. It's pretty incredible to see what they can do nowadays and throwing in the volume. And I know some people were having issues with the volume recently, but it's an advancement. And so it's fun to see. So yeah, this kind of stuff just really excites me to see, you know, the progression of it. And you got George Lucas out of his house to do some comments on it. So it's got to be a win-win.
They came to him. They went to him.
Oh, sure.
That's at his house.
No, I feel like George would go. I feel like George would put on a pair of pants and a flannel shirt and head over there.
You don't even know if he's wearing pants.
I don't really know. You're right. Probably took an Uber without pants. Probably took an Uber.
Wearing his Death Star boxers, just talking about Star Wars. He's having a good time. Good for George.
How's my $4 million investment? Hey, guys.
Yeah. Well, Light and Magic drops on Disney Plus on July 27th. And July 27th through August is going to be a big month for Disney Plus with Light and Magic, with She-Hulk, and with Andor.
Good God almighty.
And I think they have them all coming out on Wednesday, which I'm like, why don't you spread it out?
We're going to have smoke coming off the Geek Buddies for sure all through July and August. Okay. Anyway, let's keep going. What's the next one? Is that it? Is that it for the trailers?
Trailers. We did it. We're very excited.
I thought there was one more. Okay.
No, we're very excited about all the movies except for John, who's not excited about Amsterdam because he does not like star-studded casts.
Real quick. No, I did not say that. Real Clerks 3 thoughts real quick. One line, one word. Did you guys watch it?
I watched it. It's,
okay.
You know, it's not, you know, I'll see it. I don't think it's one that you have to see on the big screen, but Clerks 1, funny. Clerks 2,
we saw that together, I think, you and
Clerks 2, we did. Yeah. So he's batting 500 right now. So we'll see.
Mike, thoughts? Did you see it? No.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay. All right.
I think that I think Clerks 1 is kind of along the lines of what we were talking about with like the Imagineering documentary and the Industrial Light and Magic documentary. I think what Kevin Smith managed to do with the first Clerks movie was amazing.
Yes.
Agreed. I think the fact that he, you know, very famously, like, you know, maxed out the credit cards and did the thing to make this movie, and it became, and like, I think those early years of Kevin Smith are really, really great because he was scrappy and he did his thing.
Yeah.
The Kevin Smith vibe, I don't know if it has matured along with Kevin Smith. I love listening to Kevin Smith talk about geek stuff. Right. And I think like what Kevin Smith did with like the Masters of the Universe stuff was amazing. But, you know, Clerks 3 doesn't get me as excited about some other things from that era that if there was another movie coming out, I'd be more excited about.
So clearly Michael's saying it's not enough of a star-studded cast. He only likes star-studded cast movies. Yeah. So I understand that.
That's exactly what I said.
All right, so since we mentioned Clerks 3, I'm just real quick going to mention See How They Run, the movie that we briefly touched upon with Sam Rockwell and Saoirse Ronan. Also has David Oyelowo, Ruth Wilson, Adrian Brody looked like he's playing a phenomenal prick. This is another Amsterdam-like movie that I think looks like a blast, but so I don't know if you guys have watched that trailer, but I thought that one looked really fun.
I liked it. I think Saoirse Ronan's miscast, but other than that, I liked the trailer. A funnier actress with an ability to do comedy more naturally and organically, I think would have been a better choice. And Saoirse is playing against type. And she's a sweetheart, but I just think I would have liked to have seen another actress in that role. Other than that, though, this looks fun. And it's the rarity to see Sam Rockwell play the restrained character in a movie. So
wow, hard disagree. I think she looks funny.
No.
But
All right.
We'll see.
All right, we'll see. All right, let's move on here. Speaking of Kevin Smith, as Michael was eloquently talking about, he is going to be hosting one of the panels here at Comic-Con. Him and Shatner. My God, what a that lucky SOB. He's going to get to interview Shatner, have a panel. The man who will not die, my brother William Shatner, 91 years old, going up in space, still doing it, for God's sakes. But he is part of this, and we're going to talk about some of these Comic-Con panels that were announced earlier this week. We're all going to be at Comic-Con, so you will get to run into your favorite Geek Buddies if you're going to Comic-Con for sure. We may do some live Comic-Con episodes from there. We shall see, but we will definitely be staying together. So we're going to talk about some of the panels that are standing out to us. Michael, why don't you lead us, since Shannon was leading us in the trailers? What do you got? What are the panels that stick out to you that you want to go to?
Well, I mean, look, I think that as we were talking about beforehand, although probably some more things will be announced, like definitely not as many panels as in Comic-Con's past. I think that even though I think we're very excited that Comic-Con is back, we will all be there. It's going to be fun to be back in San Diego with the boys. Like, there's a lot of fun stuff. I don't think that we should be expecting it to be on the scale of what Comic-Con was previously.
That's fair.
That being said, there's still some really, really good stuff. I think since I get to go first, I will take the crown jewel.
Go ahead.
And obviously, like, the big one is Marvel. Like, that is the big, even though we know that Marvel has D23 coming up, and even though we know that, like, there's other places for Marvel to make announcements, just like at the last Comic-Con where they used Comic-Con to announce the first round of Disney Plus shows. They brought out the Eternals cast, Mahershala Ali as Blade. Like, they had a lot of big announcements and still saved Miss Marvel and She-Hulk and Moon Knight and everything else for D23. So I think we're kind of in for the same. Like, Marvel's being very hush-hush about what their panel is. But I think that they, you know, Kevin Feige, as we covered a few weeks ago, has already said that by the end of the summer, we're going to have a better idea of where Phase 4 is going. And thank God for that, because I think we all have a lot of questions. So I think that they're going to use both Comic-Con and then D23 later in the year to sort of round that out. So I'm expecting something. Whether this is some cast announcements for Fantastic Four, some announcements for upcoming movies, maybe the Wakanda Forever teaser. Like, there's a lot of stuff that they could do and still have lots and lots of news coming down later in the year. So I think that is the one that everybody is most excited about and most anticipating on Saturday morning in Hall H.
Yeah, that's true.
Saturday morning, or is it Saturday evening?
It's
Saturday.
Marvel is, they haven't said when it's happening. Same thing with Black Adam, which is on Saturday as well. So that'll be back to back.
It probably is, yeah. I mean, if they do what they've done in Comic-Con's past, and I think Marvel can do whatever they want at Comic-Con, it's usually the last panel of the day. It's usually like, to your point, you're right. It's usually like around like 4 or 5 o'clock.
Yeah. It
kind of ends the day in Hall H and kind of ends that Saturday with a big bang. And then everybody Saturday night is running around talking about what happened in the Marvel panel.
That's true. Shannon, what sticks out to you? Any panel or a couple of panels that stick out to you?
I mean, there's two that stick out to me. One is because the DC panel is going to be Black Adam, and it's also going to be Shazam: Fury of the Gods.
Yeah, which they teased this morning on Zachary's Instagram. They're going to be at Comic-Con with Shazam: Fury of the Gods, yes.
And Black Adam, you know, it's a big question mark right now. I mean, a lot of that will kind of depend on how The Rock's performance turns out. But also, as comic fans, like, we kind of know the Justice Society as something that's a little older. And this is being played very much in, like, the not too distant future. Probably not in our world. It looks like a multiverse situation. But I am excited to see it. Like, I think Pierce Brosnan, everything that we see from him in Black Adam, I think Pierce Brosnan looks awesome. And, like, we haven't seen a ton of Aldous Hodge, but I really like Aldous Hodge, and I think he'll make a good Carter Hall. And that shot of Atom Smasher running down the street, I mean, it just looks cool. And Shazam, like, I didn't think Shazam was a perfect movie, but I thought Shazam was a lot of fun. And especially when it was Billy and the rest of the kids. And based off of the promo photos, it seems like they are really leaning in to the Marvel family story, which I think sounds like a lot of fun. The other panel that I'm looking forward to is, hold on, I pulled it up.
Okay.
It's on Thursday. It does not conflict with Johnny's panel, but it is at 2:15, and it's for National Treasure: Edge of History, the Disney Plus show.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love an Indiana Jones like globetrotting adventure. Most of them don't turn out that. What a shock.
This is news. I did not know this about you.
Most of them don't turn out well, but I mean, I like National Treasure 1, I thought was fine. National Treasure Book of Secrets, I actually really liked. So if they're able to, I can tell Johnny doesn't agree with me on this.
I mean, you didn't like Clerks 2, but you like that one. Okay, go ahead. Yeah,
okay, Amsterdam. Calm it down, Amsterdam. Calm it down.
National Treasure Book of Secrets eats Clerks 2's lunch.
I don't know. Is that the one with John Voight?
They both have John Voight.
I rest my case. Keep going. Yes, keep going. And what else?
That was John Voight from like 2004.
I don't want your Constitution. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah, what's your?
I'm really curious what the show is going to be. Like they seem to be leaning younger into their cast as of right now. I mean, I want to say Justin Bartha is supposed to.
He is a part of it. Yes.
Okay, so he is a part of it, but then the rest of it, it's a new cast. But just the globetrotting adventure. Like I can't remember, on like Discovery or something. There's one called Expedition Unknown, and like my wife watches Discovery before she goes to sleep at night, so I see a lot of this and that type of thing, just uncovering artifacts. That's my sweet spot. So that's why I am curious what this National Treasure series is going to look like.
Fair enough. Mike, you took the Marvel panel, and also we talked about DC already, so totally cool. For me, I'm looking at when they're going to announce the Sandman panel. That's going to be in Hall H. They haven't said yet. It's going to be a special video presentation and Q&A. So I'm absolutely looking forward to that one, because I want to see what we're going to get, a little bit more of an idea of what we're going to get. So I'm very excited to see what day that's going to be announced. I don't think it's going to be the same time as my panel on Thursday, I hope, but I don't see anything in Hall H at 10 a.m. It's the first thing I think on Thursday is the Dungeons and Dragons, which I am not looking forward to in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, the Shatner on Shatner, that's at 4:30 p.m. on Thursday. The Lord of the Rings, I'm very curious about. There was a leaked Brazilian version of the trailer that leaked yesterday or 2 days ago on social media, and it's coming out next week, supposedly. So the trailer. So I'm curious to see what we're going to get with that, because it's not Peter Jackson, which could be a good thing or bad thing. Depends on what your point of view is on those movies. And then is having new creators involved, are they going to have a better approach to this? Tim Allen was recently talking about Lightyear, and he said, the creators I did Buzz Lightyear with, those guys are gone. It was a new crew that came in. They put in Chris Evans instead of me, blah, blah, blah. And some people might argue that they didn't like that result. So will this be the same kind of thing where new creators come in to do their version of Lord of the Rings, or this story of Lord of the Rings and the world of Lord of the Rings, a much more diverse world of Lord of the Rings, which is already getting all kinds of anger online. So I'm very curious to see what the look. I'm telling you what's happening. I'm not agreeing with it.
That wasn't directed at you.
Oh, okay.
It was directed at the internet at large.
I'm just looking at the panels. I didn't know you were directing that, but I'm just saying that looks very curious to me. It
was directed at the internet at large and a little bit at Tim Allen, but not at
fair
you.
Enough. Oh, I agree with you. Trust me on that. And I guess I hope I'm allowed to announce it, that I am going to be hosting a panel at 10 a.m. on Thursday. It is for the Skybound Project Atomic Winter. And so I'm very much looking forward to being a part of that. My friend asked me to step in and host the panel. And so Impact Winter, not Atomic Winter. Sorry, Impact Winter, sound to page. That's what it's going to be all about. So it's an Audible audio series from Travis Beacham, who did Pacific Rim and Carnival Row, and people are loving it. So
Impact Winter is it falls into the same category as the Sandman Audible, actually, where it's not just an audiobook. It is a fully produced music, score, sound effects. And Impact Winter, like, I kind of checked it out just out of curiosity and got super invested in it. Like, if you love post-apocalyptic stories, you love vampire stories, it's definitely up your alley. I would go see this panel even if my fellow Geek Buddy wasn't moderating it. And John Rocha is just, as they say, the icing on the cake.
Thank you, man. It's kind of daunting. I've always wanted to host at a Comic-Con, and now it's my first one. Now I'm like, oh crap! Now let's make sure.
Well, listen, if you need any tips on moderating, I know a Geek Buddy you could talk to.
All right. Any other panels that you guys are looking forward to before we jump into our review here of Stranger Things?
Yeah, I actually, I would definitely, I'm very like waiting in long lines averse. We've all been lucky enough to get to a point in our lives where, you know, we don't always have to wait in the big line. So it all depends on the crowd, but I would definitely be into checking out the Severance panel.
Oh yeah, right. Yes.
I think that one could be really, really interesting.
That's also on Thursday at 3:30. Yes, ballroom.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of excitement. You know, not so much for you guys, but Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, the new Disney animated series based on the Marvel comic. I think the animation looks great, and it's coming out, so they have a panel. And you know, Proud Family Louder and Prouder has a panel, which if you have been checking out the reboot of the Proud Family on Disney Plus, that is the gayest, wokest, most just like doing things on Disney Plus that the live action shows aren't doing in all the right ways. So it is great. So I would actually be really, really interested. Also working in animation, for anyone who's an animation nerd, the 2D animation in Proud Family, Louder and Prouder is so good. And just the animation style, the quality of animation, the lighting, everything about it. So in a lot of the meetings that I'm in for my day job, that show comes up a lot as a new bar in 2D animation that you're like, can we be as good as Louder and Prouder? Because that's the best. And then you're told that you can't because that show is very expensive.
It's true. It's true. Shannon, Green Lantern, Beware My Power. There's a panel for that on Friday with Aldous Hodge playing Jon Stewart. Any chance you'll catch that one out?
That's in Ballroom 20, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That in the past, traditionally, that has been something that I know you and I have done, but also Kalinowski and I have done as well. That we've gone because they will. I think they show the movie. But that is definitely something I would be. Okay. To continue my Aldous Hodge love fest for Comic-Con, I have to make sure that I see him in Hawkman and make sure that I see him as Jon Stewart.
And, I am not going to argue with you about that love fest.
And I'm on the record having interviewed Aldous Hodge twice. You can go find those interviews. I said he'd be a great Green Lantern in both of those interviews. So it's great to see him voicing it over now. That's going to be a lot of fun. If we can't get Jon Stewart yet on screen with him, because obviously he's going to be playing Hawkman now, at least he gets to do it behind the scenes. One last panel for me as a wrestling fan. AEW is going to have a panel, Heroes and Villains, at 6:30 on Saturday. So if the Marvel panel isn't happening at 6 o'clock, I will probably find my way there. If it is, I'm gonna have to skip on that panel because I got to watch that.
Let me ask you guys this:
if Mikey can get us in.
I'll do my best. I gotta get those Vogel powers back in shape. Gotta do some
come on now
charisma push-ups before I go. Well, let me ask you guys this: aside from the panels, given that we very famously all go down to Comic-Con together with Kalinowski, and that Geek Buddies actually kind of started as us recording on the drive down.
Yes.
What are you guys most excited about in your Comic-Con return aside from the panels?
I think for me, it's just going to be nice to be back around it again. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, CinemaCon was great. Star Wars Celebration was great, but there's nothing like San Diego Comic-Con. There's just nothing like it. The vibe, the feeling, everyone's around it. We're all industry professionals, so that's great that our lives have led us to still keep being a part of this, which is so much fun. So now we get to enjoy it from different points of views. I think people are going to be so happy to be there. We're going to see some of the best cosplay we've ever seen, some of the warmest receptions we've ever seen. So for me, it's just about being around everybody and feeling the vibe again of fellow nerds and kind of getting younger again for a few days. It's going to be nice, to be honest with you. And the fact that it isn't an overwhelming amount of panels to go to, you can actually take a breath and walk the floor and see all these kinds of things and buy some new shirts. So just the overall experience is going to be great. And wherever we end up partying, and hopefully we all stay together and not leave a person behind, all those things are going to be very important to experience and explore here at Comic-Con.
I don't leave anybody behind.
Well, I was really looking forward to hanging out with my friends.
restoring Kalinowski's Diet Coke concession. I mean, it's all coming back now.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before, but Mike Kalinowski's 8 a.m. Diet Coke. Oh my God. I mean, there's certain traditions that we have. For Johnny and I, it used to be Hall H on Saturdays.
Yes.
You know, in the
all day. Day.
It's literally dragging each other to the finish line. The past few years, Kalinowski and I will typically ride together over to Vogel's, and we'll stop at Voodoo Donuts, at City Walk on the way. His lady, Shannon Barney, has made a very nice care package in the past with Pedialyte and stuff like that, things that we definitely need. Yeah, I'm really excited to hang out with my buddies. Yeah. But as John said, I mean, in the past, I mean, I think this will be a smaller Comic-Con than it has been in years past. Because, you know, in like 08, 09, 2010, I mean, it was huge. Like Assassin's Creed, a couple of years, put together a big like obstacle course, like across the street from the convention center, where you got to do like a high fall, which that was so much fun, and they were letting you play the demo for the game. But you're just surrounded by people that love genre entertainment, and it's so much fun to be surrounded by that much enthusiasm. Yeah. And along with, you know, getting to hang out with my buddies for a few days, because, you know, with John being in San Diego, like the four of us, we don't see each other that much. Yeah. True. So this is always my annual guycation, where I get to just hang out with my dudes, probably have a little too much to drink on a night or two, go eat an overpriced steak someplace. I mean, it's vacation every year. I mean, I love being able to network and chat with people, but at the same time, it's just hanging out and having a good time, and that's the thing that I'm looking forward to most.
Yeah, and I'll probably take the train from here to just head on over to the hotel and meet you guys there, because there's no need for me to drive down, so that's going to be fun. Mike, anything you're looking forward to?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I'm along the same lines. Like, I mean, I think the going to some panels and kind of getting back into the Comic-Con swing of things is great. But yeah, like I'm really looking forward to just hanging out with everybody. I love that we're staying at the Hilton Bayfront. I love that Bayfront bar. I love, as much as I love going out to the parties and going out on the town in the Gaslamp District, I love coming back to our hotel and having like a packed bar where everyone you really kind of want to see is just there at your hotel, just downstairs. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, just kind of being around all of that excitement, I think will be really, really nice. So anything else that happens on top of that is bonus. I really am kind of looking at it as a nice weekend getaway with my friends that just happens to be happening around a bunch of crazy cosplayers and industry parties.
It's true. It's true. And Mikey usually pays for the drinks, which is always great. All right, let's
It's very true.
Maybe I can splurge this time around. Let's take a quick break.
Every Comic-Con, Rocha goes, "Hey, I got the next round. I got the next round." It's been 25 years. Still waiting for that round of drinks.
I just thought saying it was enough. Just the gesture. All right, well, let's take a quick break. We're going to jump into our main topic, which is Stranger Things season 4 finale, or 4 spoiler review. Anyway, we'll be right back.
I'm sorry.
Wow, that really got Shannon good.
That's my best that I could do for Stranger Things. Anyway, all right, we're back.
I apologize. I'm sorry if anyone had to listen to me cough just now.
I think everybody had to listen to you cough.
Oh.
All right, well, let's get into this thing, because we're already a little bit past the time that we were planning on spending on certain things. So let's get into Stranger Things season 4. We talked about, I think we did a Stranger Things season, the first 7 episodes review here a couple of weeks ago. So let's jump into these last 2 episodes as a spoiler review, and then maybe some thoughts on the season overall. Mikey, I go to you first, as I always do in these reviews. Overall, how do you feel about these last 2 episodes? What stood out for you? Did they stick the landing? And do you have any nitpicks or concerns about how this whole season went down and how that finale went down, leading us into season 5, which is the final season of Stranger Things?
I kind of don't. Like I just was so happy. I was like we said earlier, I was in Cape Cod, so I was visiting a bunch of friends, and it was a crowded house. But me and a couple of our friends still woke up on the earlier side one day, and we're like, we're just doing this. We locked ourselves in a room.
Wow.
Actually, we did it in 2 days. We locked ourselves in a room one morning and watched part
8,
and then watched the 2.5-hour finale the next morning. But like, it's just a great ride. It's one of those great things where, and we've discussed this. I think a lot of people feel like maybe season 2 was a bit of a dip for Stranger Things. I enjoyed season 2, but I can see that like that kind of didn't really move the needle for a lot of people. But I think season 3, everything at the mall was super strong. And I think here with season 4, I think they really just managed to like stick the landing, nail it, and get you really stoked for season 5. Like it genuinely feels like they are building to something.
Yeah.
I think there was some really nice surprises. I think there was, it's funny. I think maybe I was expecting some more tragic deaths to happen, but I love the characters so much that I wasn't necessarily mad about it, because the things that they did do already hit me so hard. Like I was like, they really went for it in a lot of ways. And I think that one of the things I really enjoyed is when you have this many characters, figuring out, I mean, they just keep adding more characters. You're like, hey, we've already got a stacked cast. We've got a lot of characters to move around on the board, and where do we put them and what do you do? And they keep adding more, and to have as many characters as they had in 3 different locations and somehow have this kind of 3-tiered finale, final act battle thing happening on multiple fronts that all felt like they tied in together. That was quite a hat trick, I thought. Like I thought they really managed to pull that off really, really well, where you felt like everybody got their moment except Will. Poor Will. We'll talk about him in a minute. I think what they're doing with Will is good. I think what they're doing with
Will
necessary.
Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I think they're if they do what I think they're doing, because like they've already come out and said that Will is sort of central to the final season.
Yes,
we all know that Will was sort of central to the first season. And if they do what I think they're doing and they manage to stick that landing, I think everything that they've done with Will in season 4 will pay off. But I do think that if they don't stick that landing, Will feels sort of unnecessary. But given the coming out story that I think we are watching in real time, if they do it right, is going to be real, real good.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of a lot of people, Millie Bobby Brown certainly feels the same way you do. She was on a podcast and complained about the fact that there were too many people and need to kill some people off. That's real cocky from the one of the series regulars and essentially the lead saying they need to kill other people off. But that's messed up. Anyway, Shannon, thoughts overall on these last 2 episodes of season 4 leading us into season 5?
I mean, super enjoyed it. I don't think the finale needed to be 2 hours and 20 minutes. I think there was a little bit you could have cut out there at the end. Because as my wife and I were watching it, we got about probably an hour and 15, hour and 20 in, and like a lot had happened. And I pulled up the timer. I'm like, oh my God, there's another hour. I feel like we're watching Endgame right now. And not in a bad way, but it was just like, there's still so much movie left. But, I certainly understand Millie Bobby Brown's point of view, but everything that they add is so good. I mean, the Argyle character, Eddie Munson, Vecna. I mean, there's so many good characters. Like, there's no one that we land on that I'm kind of like, I'm not so sure about this. Like, I feel like in different actors' hands, the Russian subplot could have been a little tiresome.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But Brett Gelman is so good, and David Harbour is so good, and the fact that they got that huge man under 200 pounds, I think, for like when he had to cut weight. That and the Yuri character, like this guy who's a bad guy, but it's like you're a bad guy that is so much fun to watch. They got, I couldn't believe it. I mean, this is in the first batch of episodes, but like Jock and Hagar, I'm like, this guy seems familiar. And I was like, oh, this guy has no name.
A Russian soldier has no name. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it was just really, really enjoyable. I mean, the whole puppet, Master of Puppets sequence, which, if you follow Vogel on Twitter, he had he made a comparison to Dustin and Eddie to a pair of his friends who may or may not be on screen right now.
Yeah, right. I wish I could shred like that.
I'm just saying, there was a vibe.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole scene with Dustin and Eddie's uncle, like,
Yeah.
oh my God,
it was
so
great.
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And, you know, looking at, because, you know, that first season was an award-winning season.
Mhm.
Season 2, not as much. Season 3, I thought was a great return to form.
Yeah.
This one, I feel like there are some award-worthy performances in this. And, you know, hopefully they get back to that.
That's where I would begin with my analysis of the last 2 episodes. I mean, Sadie Sink and David Harbour had already been essentially the standouts of the show. And then Millie Bobby Brown comes in and reminds you why she has been the central focus of this show for 4 seasons now. And she is so fantastic in those last 2 episodes as well. So coming in there, bringing that fire, bringing the back and forth. And Jamie Campbell Boyer was fantastic as Vecna for sure as well. Acting through that makeup, which can be cheesy or can be bad in the wrong hands. You sense the menace, you sensed the frustration and the anger and the deliciousness he felt that he was finally going to get his revenge. And where you think he's about to maybe go one way or the other, maybe kind of veer off the path, he dives even deeper into what he's doing and sets off that quote unquote earthquake that's going to lead us into season 5.
Yeah.
So much of it just worked so well. And the chemistry with the actors, Lucas's reaction when he's holding Max and he screams for his sister, I'm trying not to break right now, that snapped me in half. I'm telling you, if you've ever lost someone and you have that moment, you're just screaming, there is a real deep, deep sadness and pain that you're accessing there. And he was fantastic in that moment, acting-wise. Sadie as well, going toe-to-toe with Vecna and all of that happens there. Eddie's moment with Dustin where he's like, I didn't run. I stayed this time. And I'm going to start crying again. It's just so good. And so you can say like Millie does, oh, there's too many people. But those people, as you said, Shannon, they all come in and they contribute. Homie with the helicopter. Is it Ivan or whatever his name is?
Yuri.
Yuri, sorry. He is so good. And he was acting his nuts off with a gag around his mouth. And so that just tells you how good they are in picking these actors and giving them great roles to play. Mike, I know you've been itching to talk. Go ahead, brother.
Well, no, I had a lot to say, but like the Yuri stuff was great just because they really, again, it's just really, really good writing. You have this guy, to Shannon's point, who is a bad guy. I mean, he sells them out. He turns them in. He gets caught. And even he gets this moment where you get this speech where it's like, hey, you used to be a hero. You used to be this. This isn't about Russia or America. This is bigger than us. Yeah. So that when he comes in on that helicopter at the end, you're like, fuck yeah, that's satisfying. Everything with Eddie running away in the very first episode of the season, and Eddie being on the run the entire time, and then him deciding not to run. The complexity of Stranger Things is in this huge world that they've built with the Mind Flayer and the Upside Down and having the number of characters that they have. But when you have that many characters, the key is kind of in the simplicity.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's having like Eddie ran away, Eddie's on the run. Eddie doesn't want to be the first one to jump into the thing. He's kind of dragged. So when he finally has that moment, you're like, that's a payoff. Yuri's a bad guy. Yuri is selfish. Yuri's only going to do what Yuri does for Yuri. Yuri does a selfless thing. And you're like, that's satisfying. And so the fact that with so many of these characters, they just, you set this thing up and then you knock the pins down. And that's what makes a satisfying season. And they really, again, aside from Will Byers, which does seem like they are setting him up for the finale. But, kind of to your point about Lucas, and if you've ever been in that position of losing someone, like Will Byers, if you ever were in the closet or are currently in the closet or on any level dealing with your sexuality, looking at what Will Byers is dealing with is heartbreaking. Him kind of giving this speech to Mike about what Elle is probably feeling when it is clearly what he is feeling. Every gay person has done that to some straight friend at some point in their life. Like it is heartbreaking. And then when he turns away and cries, I don't know how Mike didn't see him crying. I'm like, Mike, come on, get it together.
I know. I thought that too.
Get it together, man.
That scene.
Your buddy is
pretty obviously crying.
But I did think that
he's the heart, not the eyes.
Yeah. But then I think the scene that Will had with his brother, where they were talking, was just like his brother going out of his way to be like, I know you're gay and it's cool,
Yeah.
was just lovely. So I do think it's really interesting, and I'm very kind of intrigued about this final season, knowing that Will is so tied to the Upside Down. You know, we saw in season 1, Will was the one who kind of drew the Mind Flayer, and then in this season, we see, I forget what Vecna's name was when he was a kid, but we see that when he's a kid in the house, he's drawing the Mind Flayer.
Yeah.
And he became Vecna. Like, wherever Will is going, and the fact that he's dealing with his feelings and doing whatever, and how that's going to land, like, if they get that wrong, people are going to get upset. And if they get that right, it's going to really, really be awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that's the storyline that got the kind of short shrift. Him and Jonathan and the dude from the pizza place and
Argyle.
And Argyle, yeah, and Mike. They got kind of the short shrift here in the storyline department. But when they hooked up with 11, then their storyline became really powerful and it worked out. And Naomi's like measuring her with the salt thing and going to, and finding the franchise location. All of it just works so well. By the way, people aren't giving Argyle enough love in their conversations about this season. He was fantastic. Yet again, another character that's brought in, or actor that's brought in, a new character, and immediately you know this character. If you grew up in the 1980s, you fucking know this guy for sure. And so it's just like, it's great how for a guy like me who lived through the 80s, all those characters, those characters, those evocative. It's a great homage, great nostalgia there, and it works so well. And we'd be remiss not to mention the Steve and Nancy stuff, which I thought was really nice to see the slow progression and change. You know, as you said, Mike, they're going to allude to season 1 with Will, but also season 1 with Nancy and Steve here, seeing their kind of change. And even Steve saying, you know, it's you I saw in my fantasy. I wish we'd met now, because I think I'd be a better partner for you now. That's growth, man. That is so rare to see in shows like this. So it's so fun to see that and have that come through. And even the thing with her and Jonathan, listen, never believe a significant other when they say, oh, no, we're fine. It's just things seem to be getting in the way of us being together. It's over. Start running now and go find someone else.
But one of the things they did was real. And again, like I said, a good season is all about setting up the pins and then knocking them down.
Right.
But a good series is about doing that on the macro level. And so, like, they were really smart in that they gave us, like, a season of Nancy like breaking up with Steve because he was not the guy she should be with, and getting with Josh. It's Josh, right? Yeah, it's Josh. Jonathan. And getting with Jonathan. And then this season, they very specifically separated Nancy and Jonathan so that we could fully focus on Nancy and Steve, so that going into this final season, they created a compelling love triangle, which is really hard to do, where it's like, right now we want her to be with Steve, but depending on where her and Jonathan are at the beginning of season 5, like it could be really like, we don't know where they want to go. So you've got that going on. You've got this Will thing going on with Mike. You've got Mike and 11. You got Dustin
and David Harbour and his dad, who finally accepted him.
Yeah, so you've got that whole thing going on. You've got, you know, Lucas's relationship with his sister, but also Lucas and Max, who that I screamed when Max's leg snapped. Like, I was like, we're out, we're done, I'm out, I can't do it. So whatever's going on with Max and that relationship with Lucas, I mean, like when they were writing those little notes to each other, and he was like, hi, and she was like, you want to hang out? And I was like, well, this is gonna not end well for anybody. But like, so, you know, you go down the line, and again, for the number of characters, even Robin and her girlfriend making peanut butter sandwiches. So like, you know, you've got all of these characters, and you've set up so much just emotionally, not even dealing with the upside down of it all, that like there's an expectation, like, where does this all resolve? Where does this coming of age story end? And then on top of that, to just like blow things wide open, like Johnny said, literally to have this earthquake that just destroys the town, like, you did something that you can't take back.
Yes.
You did something that like is so big that like season 5, by definition, it's like, you know, it's like Voldemort coming back in Goblet of Fire. It's like, well, the cat's out of the bag now. Like, it's anybody's game. And
they even dealt, I know Shannon, you want to chime in here, and they even dealt with like a real life villain, which was that kid. Is it Steve? Is that the kid's name? I forget the blonde kid who got the gun.
Steve.
Okay. Well, the kid who got the gun and was going after, I mean, that resonates with, even though it's set in the 1980s, certainly there was those beginnings of being, you know, a little frustrated with the idea of Satanism and Dungeons and Dragons. And, you know, that scene with him going into that meeting of people and riling them up with a bunch of bullshit and leading them out. Don't tell me that doesn't resonate with what we're seeing now in 2022 with some of these things going on politically. That's a white kid like that immediately defaults to guns, gets his frat bros to go with him, and goes there and puts the gun on the black kid. That's a white kid turning a gun on a black kid. You cannot escape that resonance now. So it was so brilliant and organic the way they made that all work. And of course, what happens to him there when he gets burned up by the earthquake. And I wonder, going into season 5 with the Max situation, if we're going to get a Pet Sematary situation where she comes back and she's not quite the Max we thought, because she died. And if it is a pet, and they've been doing nostalgia for the 1980s, and Pet Sematary originally came out in the 1980s, it would be interesting to see her being on Vecna's side against the crew because of how she's come back. That could be fascinating. So, Shannon, what are your thoughts on all of this?
I mean, so the character's Jason Carver, I believe. But to what you were saying about Argyle, Eduardo Franco, who it is so easy for a character like that to skew into parody.
Right, caricature, yes.
It's so easy for that to happen. But the fact, at least from my point of view, he never pushes, he's never unbelievable. He is a character. But it never becomes sketch. He's never pushing for the laugh. This is someone who has developed this character, and he is acting honestly and truthfully, and that's when you get some of the best comedic performances. There was a line, this is not a great reference, but there was a line in Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, the Aaron Sorkin sketch comedy show, where they're talking about, in dress rehearsal, this character got a laugh, and he's like, well, you got a laugh because you asked for you asked for the salt. You didn't get a laugh when we taped it because you asked for the laugh. And that's this character, because he's so funny because he is who he is. And a lot 99% of that credit goes to Eduardo Franco, who, I mean, again, it's very easy to lose him in the Eddie Munson, because Eddie Munson was great. But I agree, don't sleep on Argyle. That guy was fantastic. I hope he comes back for season 5.
Agreed. Any final thoughts as we wrap up, or anything we missed here?
You brought it up. This isn't really about the show, but it really cracks me up that in the 80s, people were that freaked out about Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah, dude. I
remember this.
No, I remember it too. It's so funny, but like for anybody, like the fact that like that's not even exaggerated in this show, like the way that they use Dungeons and Dragons, and then used it to rile everybody up. But the fact that like all those news stories, all those articles about, is this promoting Satanism? Is this doing this? Like, it's a bunch of fucking nerds, like, rolling dice with their dark elves and their warrior dwarves to, like, I'm like, it's insane. Like, it is crazy to me the way that people got so amped up about that back in the day.
Well, there was a legendary tale that people were killing themselves because their characters died in Dungeons and Dragons. The same thing actually legitimately has been happening with World of Warcraft. We've seen some suicides connected to characters that die in their World of Warcraft, and these people off themselves. And it's just like, it's because there's instability there, obviously. And so there was that legend. So the fact that they referenced that in the show, I thought was genius, because there was that whole thing. It's why I didn't play. My parents would not let me play, so I did not play. I've only recently started playing with a crew over the last few weeks. And I've been having a blast. But yeah, I've never played my entire life, but it's fun to play it now, and you get it, and it's cool. But yeah, but again, it's these things that the older generation doesn't understand. Therefore, they must vilify it. That is as old as time. So yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah, I remember the first Dungeons and Dragons character I created was a barbarian named Rogaine. Had no idea it was named after a product I might have to use one day.
Oh, hello. There's the joke from Shannon McClung, ladies and gentlemen.
But it's honest.
That's
all true.
Fair enough. All right. Any final things? Anything we missed? Anything we want to touch on? David Harbour. Well, we should say that David Harbour and Winona Ryder. I thought that stuff was great. Winona getting more of an active approach, whereas Normally, she's the one freaking out. Where's Will? Where's Will? They gave her a much more active approach in this season, where she is pushing the narrative along, going with more. Was it Maury, whatever his name's, going along to go to Russia to get David Harbour, and then having that really sweet moment between them. My girlfriend looks at me. She goes, "They stink. You know that, right? There's no way they're making out like that with a Russian prison." Dude, I'm like, yeah, it's fair point, but this is Fantasyland. So
look, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just ignore the smell. Sometimes you just go in for it. It's fine,
I guess. But I thought it was really sweet. Yeah, because I turned to her. I said, "Mikey says you get cleaner at Burning Man after 3 days of not showering." She was like, "Bullshit." And I was like, all right, there we go.
I said that at Burning Man you get caked in a layer of dust that insulates you, is what I said.
I'm gonna check with.
Also, I shower at Burning Man, so it's fine.
Whoa. Anyway, all right. Any final words before we wrap up here? The spoiler review.
Yes. So the other thing about Burning Man, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm excited for season 5. I'm excited for season 5. I really feel like they know. You get the sense that, again, like that everything that they're setting up, like they clearly know where they're going. They know the story they want to tell. I don't feel like they're like, oh, how are we going to wrap this thing up? Like, I feel like we're going to get a satisfying end to this. Could be wrong. Could be disappointed when we talk about it, but I kind of don't think that I'm going to be.
Okay. Shannon?
Yeah, I can't wait to see season 5 in 2 years.
Yeah, they said they're just going to start writing the scripts now, so we've got a little ways to wait. But don't worry, we've got a lot of entertainment. I think it's going to fill our time until then for sure. I loved it. I didn't think this finale was too long at all for me. We ripped through it on July 4th at 10. Started at 10 a.m. done by 12:30. It was great. Loved it and enjoyed we watched episode 8 the night before. Woke up and then watched the finale and had a great time with it. So it's about. I think it's about timing, to be honest with you, and I enjoyed it all for sure. All right, well, there's our episode of Geek Buddies. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it madly. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, I'd like to follow us on social media. On Twitter, it's at @geek_buddies. On Instagram, at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at @Shannon_McClung. On Instagram, at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you would like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is at MKToon. If you would like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is at The Rocha Says.
Mikey?
If you like star-studded casts, barbarians named Rogaine, or Burning Man, we have got what you want here at the Geek Buddies. And here's what you can do to help us continue to do what we do. You can hit that like button below. You can subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page. Check out all the amazing content that he has got there. Leave your comments below. What are you excited about? Are you going to be at Comic-Con? Where are you going to be? What are you going to be looking at? What did you think of Stranger Things? And what did you think of all those trailers? And do you like star-studded movies, unlike Johnny? If you are listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, go ahead and leave us some stars and leave us some comments so that we go up in the rankings. And as always, the best thing that you guys can do is retweet this video, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, and tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
There you go. Thank you so much. And we appreciate it as well. And we definitely appreciate Carbon Health powering and sponsoring us. Go to carbonhealth.com. Go get checked out today. Any healthcare questions or concerns, go and check it out. They've got 120 plus is it 200? Wait, sorry, I don't want to say the wrong thing. 125 locations worldwide, 80 locations in California alone. They do COVID testing. They've got urgent care at all their locations, primary care available at many of their clinics as well. They know your healthcare needs can change, so they change with you. And they know the industry is broken, and they want to be part of helping people in positive communities. They generally care about positive communities like ours who engage with each other over the love of culture and expressions of life. And make sure you download that app if you need it, so you can have the doc in your pocket. That app
in your pocket.
Yeah, there you go, doc. For yourself.
You text and be like, my friend is floating and their legs just snapped. What do? I need help.
This dude's face really is burnt. It seems odd. His nose is gone. What do I do?
Caught in a supernatural earthquake. Please help me.
Send help. All right, there you go. So go to carbonhealth.com today and get signed up. All right, we love you. Take care of yourselves. Be well. Look for our spoiler review of the latest episode of Ms. Marvel coming soon as well. All right, y'all take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode from the
Geek
Buddies.